Happening in a matter of minutes, American astronaut Jeff Williams and 2 cosmonauts will lift off from Kazakhstan to travel to the International Space Station. Williams will be spending 6 months aboard the ISS, causing him to set a new American record with 534 cumulative days in space. That's a record currently held by Commander Scott Kelly with 520 days. The launch is scheduled for 5:26 p.m. Eastern Time, but before that, we want to talk to our CBS News space consultant, Bill Harwood, who joins us from Merritt Island, Florida. Bill, good to see you.
Good to see you, Vlad. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So do we have any idea what kind of information, what kind of scientific research astronaut Williams will be doing up there?
Oh, quite a bit. You know, they've got the full suite of physics experiments, chemistry experiments, and a lot of medical research, Vlad. They're still carrying on with the kind of research we're familiar with when Scott Kelly was up there on his just-finished long-duration flight, learning more about how the human body adapts to weightlessness, with this long-range goal being, you know, developing countermeasures to help astronauts eventually make multi-year flights to and from Mars. So full suite of experiments on tap for the crew, as well as the arrival of multiple cargo ships and supplies they'll be unloading. Quite a bit of work on tap.
Tell us about astronaut Jeff Williams. What do we know about him?
Well, he's one of NASA's most experienced astronauts. He first flew back in 2000 on a shuttle assembly mission helping build the space station right when assembly began. He spent 6 months aboard the station, I think, in 2006, and then another 6-month flight, I think in 2009 and 10, or maybe 10 and 11, I can't remember. But he's got a lot of time in space, as you say. And if all goes well, on August the 24th, later this summer, he will surpass Scott Kelly's record for the most cumulative time in space by an American astronaut.
And Bill, we're just under 2 minutes away from the launch of the aircraft. He will be accompanied, as we've said, by 2 cosmonauts, Alexei Ovchinin, I'm going to massacre these names, and Oleg Skripochka. Yeah, what do we know about these guys?
Well, the commander of Ovchinin is a rookie. This is his first flight, something he's been looking for his entire life. Says he decided he wanted to be a cosmonaut when he was 6 or 7 years old. Skripochka is another station veteran, spent 5 months aboard the station earlier, so for him it's a return trip. So 1 rookie, 1 veteran, and 1 very veteran astronaut in Jeff Williams. So it's a fairly experienced crew.
Very quickly, Bill, as we approach just about a minute here until launch, tell us about this ride that they're all about to take. I mean, how fast are we talking? Are they going to be in proximity to the space station?
Well, you know, they've got to catch up with the station, and the station's moving at 5 miles per second. That's something like 86 football fields a second, or more than 17,000 miles an hour. So at the moment of launch, at 0, they're going to go from sitting on the launch pad to 8 minutes and 45 seconds later, they'll be going more than 17,000 miles an hour. Jeff Williams called it an e-ticket ride, and judging by all the experiences astronauts reported, it is quite a ride, no question.
So, Bill, you know, I remember launches as a kid, and this looks very similar to that in that, so we're going to see a launch, and then supposedly there are boosters, and that they will separate from the actual capsule. We're 1 minute away, folks.
Well, that's right. The Soyuz rocket has 4 strap-on liquid-fueled boosters. The Russians don't use solid propellant like the shuttle used to. Those 4 rockets will come off a couple of minutes into flight. Then the central core stage will continue the ascent. It eventually will burn out. The 3rd stage will light and push them into orbit. And like I said, about 8 minutes and 45 seconds after liftoff, they'll be there. The capsule will separate, the solar arrays will deploy, and they'll be on their way.
I don't think all right, let's go ahead and listen in.
Tower marking just about T-minus 35. Should be under 30 seconds away from liftoff.
Order sequence initiated.
Auto sequence initiated.
Launch command issued for ignition.
Second arm retracting, launch command issued. You can see the engines firing, ramping up.
Flight speed. Engines at maximum thrust.
The turbo pumps are at flight speed, standing by.
Liftoff.
And liftoff. Jeff Williams, Alexei Ovchinin, and Oleg Skripochka launching to the International Space Station. The first stage of the Soyuz booster delivering 930,000 pounds of thrust from the 4 strap-on boosters and the single core engine.
Nominal. We copy.
First stage going to be burning liquid fuel for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds into the flight, passing through the cloud layer. See the crew on board. Again, Alexei Ovchinin there in the center seat. Getting good reports of first stage functioning throughout the launch so far. Just 1 minute since liftoff.
60 секунд. Тангаж, рысканье, вращение в норме.
60 seconds in powered flight. Your pitch and roll are nominal. Everything's nominal on board, Musk.
So as we approach 1 minute and 10 seconds into the flight, the velocity of the vehicle already at about 1,100 miles per hour. Again, everything continuing to go well with the ascent, lasting just under 9 minutes until these 3 crew members will be in space. You'll see that owl begin to float in the microgravity environment, an indicator of once they've reached their final altitude.
On board, and the crew is feeling well. Copy.
And then in just a few seconds, the strap-on boosters will be jettisoned. And the visiting vehicle officer here in Houston confirming the escape tower has been jettisoned, and those 4 strap-on boosters have also been jettisoned. They've completed their job and will now drop away. Soyuz already at an altitude of 28 statute miles, cruising along at a speed of about 3,350 miles per hour.
140 seconds into powered flight. The structure is nominal. We copy. Everything's fine on board. We are feeling fine. 002938. We selected inaudible. Affirmative.
And so the second stage now firing the core booster, continuing to push the vehicle along.
Is nominal.
And then getting confirmation now the launch shroud has been jettisoned. So the Soyuz spacecraft itself now exposed, the rocket already at an altitude of about 48 statute miles. And just a little over 3 minutes into the flight, Soyuz already traveling at a speed of about 4,700 miles per hour. There we can see NASA astronaut Jeff Williams. This his 3rd ride on a Soyuz spacecraft, getting ready for his 4th flight into space, his 3rd long-duration mission on board the station.
200 seconds. Engines of the second stage operate.
The second stage continuing to perform as expected. The core stage of the Soyuz rocket measures 56 feet in length, 13.5 feet in diameter with a single engine with 4 fuel chambers, providing between 178,000 and 222,000 pounds of thrust, depending on the altitude of the rocket, for its 3 minutes and 28 seconds of operation. It's going to continue burning for about another 45 seconds or so until the 4-minute, 43-second mark. Then Soyuz will use what's known as a hot stage technique. The 3rd stage will actually ignite while the 2nd's still burning. That's why the Soyuz has that open area between the 2nd and 3rd stages.
Everything is fine on board. The crew is doing well. 0033 38 R1. Command is to be issued.
And all reports coming from Russian flight controllers indicating the vehicle in good health. And now we're going to be standing by for
we are continuing to monitor this picture. I'm fascinated to look at this, Bill Harwood, because I suppose they have these cameras up, or you tell me, but the view we're used to seeing, at least I'm used to seeing, is the exterior of a capsule as it goes up and out, the exterior view from the launch pad, and then sometimes on the actual craft itself. But seeing the inside here is just remarkable to me, right down to that little owl.
NASA didn't do that with the space shuttle. But the Russians do it routinely. They show us the view of the cockpit going uphill. The view we're seeing right now shows the commander, Alexei Ovchinin, on the bottom of the screen. Behind the toy owl you see floating there is the flight engineer, Oleg Skripochka, and Jeff Williams is out of view to the commander's right. That little owl, by the way, is there to indicate weightlessness. It's a toy of the commander's daughter. When they're flying uphill, you can't tell when they reach weightlessness, but when the engines shut down, you'll notice the owl will start floating, and that's just a little tradition the Russians have to show everybody they really are in space.
So you said that the whole thing is about, what, 8 minutes and 45 seconds? They'll be going 17,500 miles per hour. That's extraordinary
Yeah,
to
that's
me.
right, just about 5 miles per second. That's how fast everything in low Earth orbit's going, and of course, that's how fast the space station is going. So they've got to catch up with that, and if all goes well, they'll get there just after 11 p.m. Eastern time tonight.
I guess, Bill, as I watch this, I cannot help but think about what that must feel like, because when you watch a launch from the exterior view, it is such a violent scene, obviously, to get the craft, to get the boosters, you know, ignited. Everything looks so violent, and yet when you see the interior view there, it almost looks serene.
It looks very calm, doesn't it?
Vlad was joking that he's had, you know, rougher rides leaving LaGuardia Airport.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like smooth.
Well, you know, if you talk to folks who've ridden on the Soyuz, they say it's a pretty shaky ride. I mean, there's a lot of vibration. Of course, they're insulated up there in that crew cockpit. They've got their space helmets on and all of that, so I don't think it's terribly loud, but they can certainly feel it when those stages separate, and they feel the acceleration. They get pushed back in those seats at about 4 times the force of gravity on the way uphill as the vehicle loses weight. You know, it's burning its fuel up, but it's accelerating, so you're getting faster and faster. They feel that, and then when they finally get done, 8 minutes and 45 seconds or so, it's a sudden cutoff, and all of a sudden they're weightless.
Bill, once they approach the ISS, what happens? How do they connect with it?
You know, it's an extremely complicated but very mature sequence the Russians have developed over the years. The spacecraft does all the flying. It's an automated approach to the space station. They use radar, they use all sorts of sensors and radio ranging and all of those sorts of things until they finally catch up with it. They'll line themselves up with the upper Poisk module up on top of the station, and then they'll slowly lower down to docking. The commander is ready to take over by manual control if he needs to, if there's a problem. But if all goes well this evening, it'll be an automated docking. Springs and latches will pull the two craft together. They'll do some leak checks, and if all goes well, a little bit after midnight, they'll finally get the hatches open and float inside.
That is so cool.
That's amazing. And Bill, they're going to be joining some astronauts already on board. Tell us about that.
Well, that's right. Expedition 47 Commander Tim Kopra, cosmonaut Yuri Malenchenko, and British astronaut Tim Peake. They launched to the station last December, on December 15th, and they will, of course, welcome their 3 new crew members aboard to get back up to a full staff of 6 so they can do the science, all the research they have planned.
That is just, I mean, I think in this day and age where we don't get enough of a sense of what it means to travel up into space and to see what these brave men and women are doing in the name of science, I think it's wonderful. How soon will, whoa,
there it is.
There it goes.
So, Bill, what's happening now?
Well, that was the 3rd stage shutting down, and I believe you're going to see the owl floating. So they are not accelerating anymore. They have reached preliminary orbit, and the next thing will be to separate from that 3rd stage.
I think that's what's, yeah, look at it. There it is. It's floating.
Wow. You could really see at the second that that separation happened, how quickly. There's the owl.
Yeah,
wow,
definitely floating. For all those conspiracy theorists out there who don't believe that we've ever been to space or the moon, there you go.
The owl is proof.
The owl is proof. Yeah, this is, I mean, I've never actually, I know, Bill, you said that the Russians do this as routine where you see the interior. I've never seen that before. So yeah, this is pretty cool for me. That's why I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And let me interrupt you just real quick. The spacecraft has separated from the 3rd stage successfully. The Russian flight control team reports the 2 solar arrays have deployed. Their navigation antennas have deployed and locked in place. So a good launch for the Russians, good launch for Jeff Williams and his crewmates. And if all goes well, in about 6 hours, they'll catch up with the International Space Station.
Fantastic. Bill Harwood, our space consultant, thank you so much for helping us maneuver through all this. It's really cool. Appreciate it.
Always a thrill.